Hi, and welcome to Prepping Essentials.
Good morning, it's 7:45 on Sunday the 11th of October. Just making my way down to the land. As always, we're never quite sure what we're going to get done, but let's find out. Well, here we are, down on the land. It's actually not raining this morning. It did rain a lot overnight, but not this morning. You might be able to see in the trees there, the sun is just trying desperately to peek out. However, I'm not getting too excited because we are forecast more rain as we head into next week. More observant of you might notice I've parked my car in a different position this morning. I'm leaving some space. Hopefully at some point I'm going to get a delivery of materials. Fingers crossed for that. But for now I'm going to get myself down, open up the cabin and the polytunnel, and as usual we'll make it up as we go along and see what happens. Well, that's the polytunnel opened up, and I've got myself a little fire going. I'll just give that chance to settle down. Kettle's boiling, so I'll soon be having a cup of coffee. Different kind of a morning this morning to yesterday. The sun is out there behind the trees trying desperately to peek through, but we have still got these clouds on the horizon which are forecast to bring us some more rain. You can probably see on that far end of the field there, the sun is trying to warm the grass up. Everything along this woodland is starting to look very wintry. Not much sign of life now. Everything's kind of dying back. You've got the last few stubborn little blackberries peeking through. Although, having said that, it is trying to bluff us by putting some flowers out as well. Everything else is looking decidedly autumnal. Lots of hawthorn berries on the trees. There's still a few I noticed further down the woodland there. Some elderberries still fruiting. There's nowhere near enough to collect, unfortunately. Similarly, these rose hips are out. Lots of berries there, so at least the wildlife has got a little bit of something to nibble on until I turn up to refill my wildlife feeder. One thing I have noticed along this wood line, and indeed across the whole field, is the abundance of mushrooms. I really am going to have to sort myself out in the knowledge department and try and figure out what's edible and what isn't. If I've got time, I'll throw some pictures in of the various things that I've seen as I've had a little wander around. But for now, I'm going to get back, throw some more wood on that fire and get a cup of coffee on the go. Well, it's another cool day. The sun is trying to get out, but it's still quite cool. So I've got the fire going, so that's good. I've got my cup of coffee, which is even better. And I'm just generally kind of pottering around, hoping that in the next couple of hours I'll get a delivery of timber. So fingers crossed. I thought I'd just take the quick opportunity to pick up on one of the cabin chats I did a week ago, maybe just over a week ago. We were talking about bugging out, and I did say that if you were going to be bugging out, you'd need to take stuff with you. And I've kind of resisted picking up on this topic because it's a really contentious issue in the prepping community. And you will see endless YouTube channels talking about bug out bags, and the subject can get really quite intense. Those out there that are more of the kind of survivalist, bushcrafting, wilderness camping mindset, and there's nothing wrong with that. I do enjoy, given the opportunity, going out and camping out in the wild, whether that's in a tent or in a camper van. But I'm not, and you can tell, I'm not one of these wilderness survival type guys. I'm a prepper. So I'm hesitating slightly talking about bug out bags, and you'll have seen in a few of my previous videos, probably going back quite some time now, but I do have a variety of different bags. In fact, bear with me a second, because as you've seen me taking video shots of the cabin, the more observant of you might have spotted that I always have, it's quite heavy, I always have a big bag with me, and there's a variety of different things in there. That actually isn't related to bugging out, that's more my day pack, if you like, for when I'm down here on the cabin, and contains a variety of different things. And in fact, bizarrely, in that bag is a boxed cordless drill. And yes, I hump that backwards and forwards, to and from. I've not used it for, I don't know, months probably. But it's in there, and I bring it down on the off chance I might want to use it, but I don't leave it here. Because if I do need to recharge it, I'll recharge it at home. I won't drain my batteries, leaving that on charge to suck my battery's life out of them. It's just far quicker and easier to take it home with me in the bag and recharge it at home. So, as usual, gone off on a little bit of a tangent there, but it is relevant because it's a bag, and it's a bag that I use every day when I'm coming backwards and forwards to the cabin. So the subject of bags is relevant to the prepping lifestyle, whether that's, in this particular case, your day bag that you're using while you're away from home just to keep you going with various items, or as I do, to move things backwards and forwards that I don't want to necessarily leave here in the cabin. But bug out bags, yes, very, very firmly in the realms of prepping, and as I say, I have hesitated slightly in doing this video, because for sure random preppers that come across this video will undoubtedly, particularly if they're of the survivalist type mindset, start picking holes. And, oh, you don't need that, you need this, and that saw's no good, or that torch is no good, you want this one, and so on and so forth. So hopefully you kind of get where I'm coming from when I say that I've been reluctant to do this. But let's bite the bullet. I've got a couple of bags that I use regularly. One is always in the back of my car, and you'll have seen that in previous videos. It's bright red colour because it's an emergency bag, and it's not for stealth mode or bugging out when something hits the fan and it's mayhem on the streets and you want to be low profile, it's an emergency bag. It's in the car every single day. It goes everywhere with me, whether that's to work, shopping, holiday, whatever. It's always in that car, and it contains a fairly similar range of items that you'll see in my bug out bag. But it's more orientated on getting home rather than leaving home to go off grid. I did touch on this in my bug out video, and I was talking to my neighbour Gary literally yesterday. So he brought up the subject and a couple of people have commented on previous videos. So whilst I've been reluctant to do it, this is for you, Gary, because you did specifically ask. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just quickly move this chair out the way. I think I might pop some more wood on that fire as well. Yeah, that's looking not very healthy. So I'll stoke that fire up, shuffle around the furniture, and I've brought my bug out bag with me so that I can do this little video whilst I'm waiting, hopefully, for my wood to arrive. Okay, so hopefully you're getting a decent view there. I've just been relaying the fire and made another cup of coffee because I don't know how long this is going to take. But let me grab my bag. And when I say grab my bag, actually it's more than a bag, because we've actually got a little belt set. Can you see that? You can see that. Right, hopefully all of this will make sense as I go through. So I've got my normal day bag that I use all the time, but for bugging out I've got two items. Let me throw that one out the way, and then you can see, hopefully you can see a little bit better. Apologies for this, I just need to check that you can actually see what the hell I'm doing. Yeah, and you pretty much can. So we've got the bag itself, and then we've got a belt set. Now on that belt set there's a variety of different pouches and bags. I don't really need to go through every single thing that's there, but the big one is essentially a respirator with some spare cartridges and some spare cotton filters. I've got a survival kit. Now you will have seen a video completely about this survival kit. I did a separate video quite a long time ago now, just on the subject of a 24-hour survival kit. There's a multi-tool on there with a small axe, and then there's a standard knife. Nothing exotic, but certainly sufficient for anything that I might want to be doing while I'm actually out and about. Water bottle with some Puritabs in. There's a canteen, metal canteen, so I can use that metal canteen to boil up water for making drinks. And you'll see in my bag, if I need to actually have a meal of some kind, I've got the capacity to do that. And then final pouch on there is a pull away medical kit. I've not really done extensive videos on medical because, to be honest, I'm not a paramedic. I have basic first aid knowledge, and in various jobs I've done first aid training, including crisis zone first aid training, which is a little bit leaning towards paramedic, but I'm not a paramedic. So that's the belt and equipment on the belt that I would take with me. And again, all of this is kind of relevant to the situation that's causing you to actually bug out. Hopefully, in an ideal world, you wouldn't be in such a panic that you weren't able to prepare. However, if you are in a blind panic, then that's the idea that you can just pick up this bag, walk out the door at a minute's notice and be able to get to where you're going. And as I kind of alluded to in my video the other day, or the other week, this bugging out, it's not you going out into the wilderness to live long term off the contents of your bug out bag. That's not what a bug out bag is for. A bug out bag is to get you from your home to your bug out location. And ideally, that will be within a 24-hour period. Now, given that it's a crisis, something hit the fan scenario, what would normally take you a few hours is going to take you a lot longer than a few hours, just because of the environment that you're operating in. But ideally, the bug out bag is a 24-hour, at an extended push, 48-hour, by which time you need to be at your bug out location to then sustain yourself longer term. So, really important to emphasise that's what a bug out bag is for. It's not the contents of the bag that's going to enable you to live long term off grid. That's not what a bug out bag is for. I think I've said that several times now, so let's leave it at that. So yeah, belt loom with various pouches and contents. If you scroll back through the previous videos, you'll see what's in that 24-hour survival kit. Depending on how long it takes to go through this, I might revisit that, but if I don't, there's that separate video for you to look at. So that's the belt gear, which brings us to the bag itself. Another kind of important thing, let me park myself here because I'm not convinced that you can actually see me on the video, and it gives me the opportunity to grab my coffee. Let's check on that for you. Yep, we're okay there. Right, I can sit now quite happily. Where was I? Lost my train of thought now. Yeah, your bug out bag. As I say, it's designed to get you from your home to where you're going. It's not a long-term off-grid survival kit. It's a short-term get you home bag. But there is a variety of items in there, and as I go through, I'll refer you to other videos that I've done historically on the subject. But for sure, one of the first things that you're going to need if you are disappearing off, you need to think about what it is that you're physically wearing. Now today, as it happens, I'm here at the cabin, I'm expecting to be outside, so I do have decent clothing for the weather. I've got gloves in my pocket, I've got sturdy boots and footwear that's already broken in, so if I needed to walk a distance now, I'm more than capable of doing it. I've got my jacket with me, I've got my little woolly hat with me, so I am good to go. Again, depending on the scenario, you might not be good to go. You might be sitting in your home wearing normal home wear, and then suddenly something happens and you've got to pick up your bag and go. So it's worth considering that in the contents of your bag. Now, in the bag itself, fairly easily to hand, I've got a little hat, a beanie hat, to keep my head warm. Again, dependent on the scenario, I've got safety goggles and a face mask in this waterproof bag. Pretty much everything in this bag is within containers designed to keep it waterproof, even though the bag itself is, allegedly, don't rely on it, supposed to be waterproof. I do have a habit of sticking stuff in bags. So we're thinking about stuff that you might need to add to your layers of clothing, or in the case of the environment itself, it might be fires, it could be chemical contamination in the air, it could be pandemic as we have now in the air. So safety goggles and a face mask. There's also a pair of nitrile gloves in there as well, just in case. So things like that readily to hand. I mentioned sturdy footwear. Within the bag I've got a set of walking, they're not boots as in above the ankle boots, they're more your hiking boots. In fact, let me rip them out and you can have a look. And they're just there in case the footwear that I'm wearing at the time that I need to run out the door isn't sufficient for me to actually move long term through the environment. So as you can see, these are quite beat up ankle boots, just to get me going. Now, as I said earlier, if you have the opportunity to tinker with your bag and your clothing, rather than just picking the bag and running straight out the door, then that really is your first consideration. You need to be thinking about, is what I'm wearing sufficient for the environment that I'm going to walk outside into? So footwear is there just ready in case. Other things that are readily to hand for me to immediately put on as I'm exiting, things like a head torch. I can just pop that straight on my head and I don't need to worry about it then fumbling around in pockets. It's there, it's on the body already. So a head torch. Also in this outer pouch there's a little bracelet. It's a paracord bracelet. It gives me availability of extra paracord, but on the hasp of it, it's only a cheap thing, but it has got a fire starter on there, flint and steel. There's a little compass on there, there's a little whistle on there. So again, that can go straight onto my wrist, frees up the pocket, and it's immediately to hand. I'm not rummaging around in my bag trying to find that. So they're there immediately to hand for me to pop on, as is the outer clothing, just to keep me warm if need be. Other pockets on the outside, again, things I might need straight away, they're very readily to hand. I don't need to rummage around inside the pack. I've got an additional water carrier. I can fill that up before I leave. There's a little clip on there to clip it onto the side of the rucksack or the belt or whatever. As I am out and about, just in case, there's an emergency blanket for additional protection from the weather. There's rain gear, that's just a simple cheap plastic poncho. I do have better wet gear, but that's there just in case I'm walking along and suddenly the heavens open unexpectedly. I can just don that. It's immediately to hand in these outer pouches. Fire starting kit, flint and steel, and some cotton balls dipped in petroleum jelly, clearly for fire starting. Again, readily to hand. Light stick, glow sticks. There's 3 in that packet. I can just crack that open. There's extra illumination. Remember, I have got the head torch. And there's just another spare light stick, single use only. So all of those items are in this outer pouch deliberately to help me, so I'm not having to fumble around in the interior of the pack. See, now it's coming out, you just want to go back in again. Again, outer pouch ready to hand. I've got a big multi-tool on the belt, but who knows, I might not have had the opportunity to grab that if it was a real dire crisis, you know, sort of intruders burst into the house and I don't have time to assemble everything, which I should be able to pick up the belt and the bag because they're side by side. So we've got another little multi-tool there. It's got a belt pouch, a belt loop on it in case I want to add it to the outside of the rucksack or to the belt itself. Knife sharpener, steel and ceramic, sharpen my knife. And there's another little combination tool again on a lanyard. that I can just pop around my neck so that it's readily to hand. Again, this has got whistle, compass, thermometer, little torch, and inside, if I disassemble this, just it splits in two. There's a magnifying glass for looking at things or for using the sun to start a fire. There's a reflective lens for signalling in there, or to use as a mirror, I guess, if I want to. So again, on the outer pouch of the sack itself, again, outer pack, I'm still not into the depths of the bag yet. Again, things that I might need readily to hand. Bear in mind it might be raining, you don't want to be opening the bulk of your pack in inclement weather, in the rain. So again, on the outside, there's a little bag here again, inside which is a camouflage tarpaulin, sufficient to make a small shelter to keep me out of the rain or for sleeping at night. And within that outer pouch also, we've got a variety of aids for the poncho. So there's some elasticated bungee type cords, some small, they're like a small ball, all in one loop with a ball. You feed the end of the loop through the hole in the poncho and use the ball to hold that in place on the poncho while you attach it to a fence or a twig branch, whatever. And there's some paracord in there as well, standard paracord. So shelter making items all there to hand in the outer pack, or the outer pouch of the pack. So we're into the final main body of the pack itself. I'll kneel for this, otherwise I'll not be able to get in and pull it all out in view. So inside the body of the pouch, we've got emergency rations. This is that energy bar or block type. Now each of these bars, allegedly, is 1 day's worth of rations. Now in this particular one, there are 3 blocks inside this, again in a waterproof bag. So as a backup emergency, I have got potentially 3 days worth of food. I wouldn't want to live on that for 3 days, but it's there. The main thing in the pack for sustenance is this 24-hour ration pack. Now this is a pack I made myself. There is a video completely dedicated to this 24-hour pack, so do feel free to scroll back through the videos and you'll see what's in the contents of this pack. But there is sufficient in there, definitely for 24 hours. There's a breakfast meal, a main meal, and a lunch meal, and then there's also a snack, some sweets for on the go. There's tea and coffee in there as well. So that is, I think there's also soup in there as well. Soup and crackers, if I remember rightly. So that in itself is 24 hours for anybody, don't care how big you are. 24 hours worth of sustenance, and a little bit extra in there that could probably eke out into at least another meal for the following day. So plenty of food there, both good, decent quality, nutritious food in the 24-hour ration pack, and then emergency survival type food to last at least another 2 to 3 days for sure. Also within the pack there's a small hygiene first aid kit. I won't rave all this open, but within there there's gloves and mask, medical gloves and mask. There's normal band-aids, there's steri strips, the like sutures for closing wounds, some tissues and some washing gear, so soap, wet wipes and things like that. That's in a small easy to access bag. In addition to that, I've got a full blown out bag of wet wipes, whether that's for cleaning myself or for using for toilet. I've got some spare clothing, again in a waterproof bag. That's basic underwear, socks, t-shirt in there. Delving further into the depths, and these are packed in plastic containers as both a waterproofing solution, but primarily as protection, because some of the stuff you don't want it either to get damaged or to, as you'll see in a minute, to leak. So within that, there's a whole range of gear, primarily around water collection. So there's a Millbank bag in there. That's more of a long-term solution rather than a short-term on-the-go solution. There's another, I'll just remove a couple of these things. There's some more water collection and purification. So there's Puritabs in there. There's a life straw and a collection bag in there. We've got more fire starting, there's a lighter in there. We've got wood cutting, there's a small handheld saw in there. There's even a fishing gear. In fact, there's two. That's the cabin door blowing in the wind. There's a homemade fishing kit, and there's a hiking, camping, shop bought fishing kit in there as well. In this final bag, this is an electrostatic bag. So essentially it's a Faraday cage, because in there is a handheld wind-up radio, and there's also a torch built into that. So in terms of lighting, I've got more lighting than you can shake a stick at. But that's all contained within that waterproof and hopefully damage-proof container. I'll reassemble that later. Then finally, in the depths of the bag, we've another, that's now empty. In the depths of the bag, we've got additional food. So we've got some basic boil in the bag rice, another water carrier. So again, I could fill that and put that on the belt of my rucksack or my belt itself. I've got a mess tin, so if I do need to cook up a meal, I can cook that meal. And to cook it on, I've got a Hexamin block camping stove. There's yet more Puritabs in there. Some tissues for cleaning up. Some more wet wipes for cleaning up. Backup fire starter, so there's another lighter in there. Tin opener. Knife, fork, spoon. And then finally, in the bottom of the mess tin, I've got a secondary method of cooking. This little waterproof bag, essentially, this is a folding wood stove. It's all flat packed, so you can assemble that into a square. There's a little dish underneath, so you can, if you wanted to use these petroleum jelly soaked cotton buds to get the fire started, and then you can add wood to it. That's just a little holder for your whatever it is you're using as a fuel source. So that's all contained within this little bag. So there's a huge variety of stuff in there that should enable me to get from the home to where I need to be in relative comfort. Bear in mind, you don't know what the crisis is that's going to occur. It could be anything from World War III to a pandemic, or just some environmental natural disaster. But within that, what is a relatively small bag, there's a huge array of different items of kit, with the intention, as I say, of getting me from the home to where I need to be at my bug out location over an extended period of time. Hopefully you have a plan in place as to where you're going to be going, how you're going to be getting there, and in an ideal world we'd load all our gear up from the home into our transportation system, car, van, truck, wherever it happens to be, and take lots of gear with us. This is ready as a backup in case that luxury is not available, and you do have to literally grab your bag and belt or just your bag and head off out the door. One final thing on bug out bags, you need to be realistic in your capabilities. That's a small bag for a reason. It's not that I don't want to take lots of stuff with me. In an ideal world, I would. I'd take the entire house if I could, or the contents of it, and ship it to my bug out location. But that's not always necessarily going to be possible. So bear in mind with your bag that you don't overdo it. There is a formula, I think it's 20% of your body weight. So if you weigh 100 kilos, then 20 kilos is your max that you can realistically carry with you. I've seen lots of YouTube channels with bags bigger than my normal day bag there, and there's all manner of things. There's bed rolls and tents and huge big axes, and so there's a whole range of stuff. In a something hit the fan scenario, if you are bugging out, realistically, you're not going to be able to carry that over an extended distance. So bear that in mind when you're creating your bag. It needs to be something that you can realistically carry, both in terms of weight and style. I mean, this is probably the most ideal size for somebody of my build. When it's packed, and there is space, you'll have seen when I opened it, there is still space inside to throw last minute items in. But when it's packed, this is around about 15 kilos, maybe heading towards 20, but it's 15, 16, 17 kilos, somewhere around there when it's packed. And as you can see, there is a surprising amount of stuff in there, and a surprising variety of different stuff in there. But hopefully that's given you some kind of an idea as to what you might want to put in your bug out bag. But please do bear in mind the key things aren't really what's in there. The key things to think about before you get to this stage is, where are you going to go to, how are you going to get there, who might be with you along the route, along the journey, because it is always better to be in numbers rather than solo. Bear in mind your weight, and bear in mind that bag is designed to get you from one place to another place in a relatively short space of time. We're talking 24 hours or slightly over, but no more than that. It's not there and not designed to be a permanent survival off-grid solution long term. That's not what this is for, and I think some people might kind of lose sight of that important fact. So hopefully that's been of use to you. I'll check up on the fire, we'll finish off this coffee, and I'll just potter generally around the cabin for the next few hours, hoping that somebody's going to turn up at that door and say, I've got a load of wood for you. But hopefully that's been useful, and we'll catch up with you later on in the video. Just popping my bug out bag and belt in the car while I wait for this delivery to come. But I thought while I was doing that, I mean, there's loads of stuff in the back of the car, from tarpaulins to jackets to winter gear for de-icing the car, all kinds of stuff. But more importantly is that little red bag that I mentioned. So I thought I'd just point that out. It is very, very similar, both in size and contents, to the actual bug out bag, but that stays in the car permanently wherever I go. So I always know I've got something with me, just in case I have a crisis and I have to get home in a hurry and my normal transportation, i.e. the car, isn't available. I can just pop that on, and it doesn't really matter what I'm wearing because I've got sufficient extra clothing and wet weather gear in the car that I can take with me to get me home. So I just thought I'd share that with you. Fingers crossed I'm going to get a delivery soon, It's still quite cool, but the sun is peeking out, so you never know, we might have a half decent day. Well, good news, reinforcements have arrived with some timber. So I'm going to make myself up there and let's get it all unloaded. That's what you want to see. Strong men carrying timber. Just busy stacking this wood inside the original cabin. Really pleased to see this here. Got some extra plastic sheets as well as a bit of a bonus. And as a real bonus, I now know where I can source the plastic roofing sheets. So when I get home, I'm going to get those ordered and hopefully have those here next week. So we're getting closer to the garden room build, as it's now come to be known. We're just making the most of a little brief bit of sunshine and getting some logs split up, ready to dry out for the fire. Well, gradually getting there with the wood chopping, building up quite a sizable pile where the wood burner is. Just let it get dried out a little bit. Some of it's not too bad, some of it's still a little bit too damp, but it will dry out there around the wood stove. So, a bit more progress. Well, it's not been a bad day really, considering. Managed to get a few little jobs like the wood cutting out the way. It's surprising how much you do use when you start running the wood burning stove. And better still that I've had a delivery of timber for my little construction project. So cabin's all locked up, polytunnel's all closed up, and I've covered up the wood pile again. So it's time to get moving and get off home. That sun hasn't lasted long and the clouds are moving in again. Doesn't matter which direction you're looking. So I don't think it'll be too long before we get some more rain. And of course it's back to work tomorrow again, and all the trials and tribulations that's bringing nowadays. But more progress, that's the main thing. As long as we keep making some progress, I'll be very, very happy. Well, that's it for this video. I hope there was something in there that was of interest to you. If you did like the video, please do click on the like button. Also feel free to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. As always, I welcome any comments, questions or suggestions you might have. What do you think? Bugging out? And more importantly, I guess, what do you think about the bug out bag? Do you have one? Have you got anything in there that you think should be in mine? Let me know in the comment section below. But for now, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.